Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the Online Series 13 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a very fun team that centers around Giratina Origin Forme. Now Giratina is not exactly a very common Pokemon in Series 13 VGC, or just VGC in general, but it's really powerful on this team. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps in the description below, and thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show your support by leaving a like, I'd really appreciate it. Also, today's actually my birthday, and I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all of you for watching my content, whether you're new and joined in the last few years, or whether you've been watching since I started making videos in 2014. It's truly been an incredible journey, and I'm just really grateful to have all of you along for the journey, and I'm really excited, obviously, for Scarlet and Violet as well, and that's going to be a crazy, crazy time. So, yeah, thank you so much. Honestly, the best birthday gift I could have is just knowing that you all continue to come out and watch my videos, so the support really means a lot. Let's talk about the team. So with the Giratina here, the idea is that you have a really bulky Pokemon that is a very solid Dynamax option, but is also just really good outside of Dynamax as well, thanks to great, incredible natural bulk, as well as, Ghost typing just being fairly valuable in this format. So Giratina can be a really good max option for two reasons. One, it is super bulky, and so it's just very difficult to KO, even with super effective hits. And two, it can drop your opponent's defense through Max Phantasm. And you have two base 140 max moves with Phantom Force and Poltergeist. And so Giratina can basically snowball defense drops and, basically get a defense drop and then maybe look for a KO in the subsequent turn. Zacian's also a Pokemon that really, really appreciates defense drops, right? Because it can take attacks that are normally a 2-hit KO and turn them into 1-hit knockouts with Behemoth Blade and Play Rough, and Zacian getting an immediate attack boost. Obviously, note that the Zacian is going to be faster than Giratina, so if you're going for Phantasm, right, like it takes another turn for Zacian to really take advantage of it, but this duo can just snowball games like super, super quickly. Giratina also has a really strong priority Shadow Sneak, and priority is just fairly valuable in a format that's so dominated by speed. And so, yeah, it's fairly interesting because obviously there are going to be Pokemon that just resist Giratina's attacks or are immune to it, but Ghost typing is actually really valuable offensively in this format, and even something that, resists it doesn't necessarily take attacks well from Zacian, right? And so the Zacian here is fairly standard. It is just a bulky admin set with 100 speed EVs. To round out the team, you've got an Assault Vest Kyogre here, also really, really bulky, just with 20 speed EVs. A very bulky Whimsicott here with Mentor. I actually want to spend some time talking about Whimsicott here because it is a really common Pokemon in this current format. However, this is actually very different from most Whimsicotts that you'll see, right? Typically, Whimsicott likes to run Focus Sash and a combination of attacks like Tailwind, Moonblast / Energy Ball, Protect, and Trick Room, for example. Now, with this Whimsicott, you're really bulky, and the Mentor makes all the difference here, right? Normally, you expect to see Focus Sash on Whimsicott, but the idea here is with Mentor, you don't have to care about being slower than opposing Whimsicotts or opposing Tornadus, right? Because often those Pokemon will want to just click Tailwind into you, but with Taunt onto you. But with Mentor, you can ignore the Taunt, essentially, and then just go for your own attacks while also having more bulk to work with. This bulk is really nice, right? Because you've got Charm and Light Screen on this set, and so with Light Screen and the amount of bulk you have, you can actually survive something like a Max Hailstorm from Kyogre, for example. Charm and Light Screen is also a really nice combination on Whimsicott. It's not that common, but it was something that players started to use towards the end of the Series 12 format going into the World Championships in 2022. The idea here is it's like a pseudo Grimmsnarl, right, where you also have really good speed control with Tailwind, and if you get a Charm off into like a physical Pokemon that's Dynamaxing on turn 1, it's a complete disaster for them, and you can often just stall out your opponent's Dynamax and win the game from there. One thing to note with this team is that you have a ton of bulk to work with Whimsicott, Kyogre, Zacian, and Giratina all having a lot of defensive investment, and so one approach you can take with this team that I think is very effective often is stalling out your opponent's Dynamax in the early game and then just snowballing the game if you've not lost too many resources with the Dynamax Kyogre or Dynamax Giratina. To round out the team, you've got a Shuka Berry Incineroar here with Protect, and so this is just really nice into opposing Zacians and Groudons, and then a max speed Zapdos here with Volt Switch, Eerie Impulse, Thunder Wave, and Detect. This is a very support-oriented Zapdos, but it's essentially used to be, super strong into opposing special attackers, like Kyogre, for example. It also gives you a very nice means of speed control with Thunder Wave that your opponents aren't necessarily going to expect. And so this Zapdos can be used to Thunder Wave things like Zacian, like Kyogre, like Calyrex, and give you a speed advantage as well, right? So, like, Tailwind from Whimsicott's obvious, but Thunder Wave from Zapdos is not nearly as expected. So, with this team, I honestly really like just leads with Whimsicott. So Whimsicott Kyogre, Whimsicott Zacian, Whimsicott Giratina are all really strong. And then you could just have the other 2 restricteds in the back. I think that, you know, is very, very powerful. But you can flex Incineroar and Zapdos depending on the matchup, right? Zapdos can be really good if you're going up into a lot of special attackers and you really want to get Thunder Wave off, especially against like opposing Tailwind teams. And then Incineroar can be valuable against teams that index more on physical attackers, especially Groudon and Zacian. So even though the Pokemon look fairly standard on this team, I'd say like Giratina makes it very different from most Whimsicott teams that I've used so far. And this Whimsicott moveset is also very different from, you know, the standard Whimsicott. And as a result, it plays out in a very, very different manner than what you might be used to seeing. And you have a lot of flexibility in how you can use this Whimsicott creatively, because with a lot of Whimsicotts, often the problem is, okay, you set up Tailwind, what do you do afterwards other than maybe chip with Moonblast and Energy Ball? Here with Whimsicott, you immediately have 3 decisions you can make, right? Like, do I Tailwind, do I want to go for Charm, or do I want to go for Light Screen? I mean, you could Moonblast as well, but like, basically as soon as Whimsicott hits the field on turn 1, you have so many options available to you rather than just saying, okay, I have to Tailwind or I have to Trick Room, essentially. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it for the breakdown. I can't wait to feature Giratina here. Oh boy, we've gone up Ditto, Shedinja, Tornadus, Zacian, Kyogre, Calyrex. I've definitely played against this team before. Maybe it's the exact same player, and I lost like a Shedinja endgame against them, where I literally just had no way to beat Shedinja in the end. I'm actually rather concerned about that being the case here as well. Now, one thing to note is that Giratina is excellent into this composition because they don't have any ghost resistances or immunities, but when you look at what we have to hit Shedinja, it is literally just Giratina and Incineroar. So, because of that, I actually feel forced to bring both, which is a little bit unfortunate. All of our Pokemon are decent here. Yeah, I mean, we have Mentor on Whimsicott. Like, I'm not opposed to something like a Whimsicott Kyogre lead here with Giratina and Incineroar in the back. I have to bring multiple Shedinja answers here. And it's not like Incineroar is necessarily the worst bring either, right? I get Intimidate into Zacian, Fake Out Pressure. It's just really weak into Kyogre, but it's not a terrible bring. I don't know, I could lead Incineroar Whimsicott in this matchup, but it's just entirely too passive, and then like, I'm giving up one of my 2 Shedinja answers in the early game, potentially, as well. I'm gonna go with Zacian and Calyrex. Okay. Yeah, Incineroar actually would have been pretty solid here, but that's okay. Like, turn 1, Tailwind plus Water Spout is fairly effective. I think for them, it makes sense to maybe Protect and then switch something into Shedinja. I can make like a really aggressive read and not go for Tailwind. Calyrex here could also angle for something like a Trick Room. Is Light Screen or Reflect more valuable here? Or sorry, Charm. Probably Light Screen. Yeah, I'm honestly very interested in the idea of not clicking Tailwind, because Tailwind Water Spout is such an obvious play for me. Okay, honestly, I'm down to Light Screen plus Water Spout turn 1. Zacian protects, works for me. That's already really good, given that we have Assault as Kyogre here. Nice. So this also means I'm staggering Tailwind by a turn, which is excellent. Yeah, they're going for Trick Room. Beautiful. And now it means I just get Kyogre under Trick Room, which is really sweet. However, like I said, I expect my opponent to have Shedinja in the back. This is also really nice because it's already setting up Giratina for success in this match. Cool. Yeah, the main thing there is I think Tailwind plus Water Spout was so obvious. And even if they attack there, I don't think it's the end of the world, but now I should be in really good shape. The big question is, it's most likely going to be Safety Goggles on Shedinja here because you saw the Focus Sash on Calyrex. So I kind of expect Zacian to maybe switch out here into Shedinja. I'm down to click Charm onto it and just Water Spout here. Yep, there's a switch. Okay, they bring out Kyogre, that's fine. Makes me think maybe they don't have Shedinja then. Oh, okay, Calyrex is switching, so maybe it's Shedinja on the other slot. Yep. Maybe a switch into Incineroar was worth considering this turn, but that's okay. Like, I think the thing is Max Giratina is already looking really strong here, especially because I was able to set up that Light Screen, but I have to deal with Ally Switch from Shedinja right now, which is annoying, but Kyogre actually takes a ton of damage from that Water Spout, so that's fairly positive for me. Yeah, it's mainly the ally switch mind games right now I'm worried about. I think here I'm willing to Moonblast into the Shedinja slot and Thunder into the Kyogre slot. We'll see if they decide to go for an ally switch, but even if they do, I get a Moonblast off, and Kyogre already took 40% of chip damage, which is really solid for me. Giratina also in this endgame can be really valuable because I can just Shadow Sneak. Incineroar, actually, if I KO Kyogre, is also a super strong brain for me, right? But yeah, since we saw the Focus Sash on committed already, I expect the safety goggles here on Shedinja. Okay, they actually just go for Poltergeist. So it confirms my Assault Vest here. That's fine. Yep. They are faster with Kyogre, so they'll get Max Hailstorm off. That's okay, but I could miss Thunder here, which is the main scary thing. We actually survived thanks to the light screen, which is pretty nice. One thing I could angle for is like a late game Tailwind with Whimsicott. Missing Thunder there is really annoying, but okay. Yeah, late game Tailwind is actually very compelling for me, in my opinion. How many turns of Trick Room are left right now? There's only 2. Yeah, honestly, Tailwinding this turn is pretty interesting to me. I could always switch Whimsicott out into, like, Incineroar here. But they might Geyser that slot. I don't want to just lose Incineroar. As odd as it seems, I'm down to Tailwind here because there's only one more turn of Trick Room after this one. I'm just going to Tailwind and Thunder the Kyogre slot. They might just Shadow Sneak Whimsicott, though. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm mainly curious if a Max Lightning even KOs Kyogre here with Assault Vest and Light Screen. I actually don't expect it to, but I guess we'll see. And now they set up Electric Train, so my Thunder will do more as well if I survive. Nice. Assault Vest plus Light Screen is such a nice combination for us here. Beautiful. Okay, so that's good. Let's see if Thunder connects here. Nice, it does hit. Beautiful. Okay, really solid damage on a Kyogre there. No paralysis, that's fine. This is going to be a really interesting endgame. Because, like, I really want to get a KO this turn, ideally, I think, right? Hail is also up, right? So if I get a KO here, Calyrex will just feint to Hail. Because there's still 3 turns. And since we have Light Screen, I think here I'm down to just Shadow Sneak into Shedinja. And then Thunder into Kyogre. Because if I pick up a double KO here, I would win the game. Because then we can just Dynamax the Incineroar. Nice. And we just Shadow Sneak and they don't go for an ally switch or a... that's so satisfying. An ally switch or a... like a Endure, for example. And they Hailstorm. Yep, that makes sense. We should take this with Light Screen decently well. Cool. See if Thunder connects. Okay, nice. I was a little bit stressed after missing the first one, but yeah. So the thing is, now you bring out both the Calyrex and the Zacian, and I can just protect my Giratina. I guess the one thing to worry about here is like Swords Dance or Substitute Zacian. I really haven't seen either in this meta at all. But yeah, if we didn't have Giratina here, like our Shedinja answers would have been essentially nothing other than Flare Blitz and Incineroar. And having Shadow Sneak here was super, super good as well. So yeah, I'm like taking advantage of the fact that my opponent set up Hail and I'm going to use it against them here. Okay. So there's 2 turns of Hail left, meaning that there will be one last turn of Tick here, meaning Calyrex will feint. Just double checking the board state. Yep, 2 turns of Hail. So I'm just going to protect here, and we are simply going to sacrifice the Kyogre, and then I can Dynamax really either the Giratina or the Incineroar. But this is why I wanted Incineroar in this matchup. It's super good against Zacian, super good against Calyrex. I kind of needed it against Shedinja. The main thing about this game is that I think I had a really favorable lead matchup, right? They don't honestly have too much like counters Whimsicott Kyogre immediately. Maybe something like their Tornadus and Kyogre would have scared me the most. then I could at least set up Light Screen. But Light Screen was really nice in this game because it allowed the Whimsicott to hang on for longer as well. Although I guess if Whimsicott fainted, it would have given me a free switch in, which may have actually benefited me. So they're just going to Astral Barrage. Yep, that's going to KO Kyogre. And if it's no Swords Dance for substitute from Zacian, this game I think is definitely over. I can just bring out Incineroar and fake out Zacian, Dynamax, Giratina, Phantasm, get a defense drop. And then Flare Blitz or another Phantasm just KOs. Okay, and they Sacred Sword. Cool. And the reason they Sacred Sworded there was to try to KO Kyogre or me switching to Incineroar. So basically, like, the one way I could have thrown this game is if I, like, hard switched the Kyogre into Incineroar and they land Astral Barrage plus Sacred Sword and get a KO there. Then I bring Kyogre out and Astral Barrage just double KOs. So it's important to note that, right? Because it looked like I'm in an amazing position, but, like, one bad move could instantly lose me the game. So you do have to always think about that, right? Where it's like, I actually would just lose the game straight up, I think, if I had switched Kyogre into Incineroar carelessly there. Or switched Giratina into Kyogre, or into Incineroar. Yeah, so now we can just Dynamax. I'm going to Phantasm here, fake out. I could Dynamax either Pokemon in this position. I think both work, but maxing Giratina is cooler because we don't get to use Giratina very much. And the idea, basically the logic here is that, you know, Phantasm itself isn't going to KO, but Zacian here normally is going to click Protect to bypass, like, Fake Out, right? And so I get a defense drop from Max Phantasm, and then the next turn a Flare Blitz or a Phantasm after a defense drop will KO after the chip damage from Hail plus, yeah, just Phantasm. But like I could have maxed Incineroar here as well, because like Sacred Sword, even if it crits, Incineroar isn't going to KO Dynamax Incin. So both work, but we've locked up this endgame essentially. The reason I was worried about something like a Swords Dance was because then like you could actually pressure both Pokemon with a one-hit KO. Hail stops. Now even if they crit one Pokemon, the other should just get the KO thanks to the defense drop. So I'm just going to go for Phantasm again and Flare Blitz. I do think Dynamax against Incineroar was probably the more correct play here, but I really don't think Zacian wins. Oh, it does crit onto the Incin. Okay. This is why, right? Because it's like now I am sweating it out a little bit because I need to rely on the Max Phantasm to KO -1 Zacian, but I think it should. Yeah. But that's why I was saying, like, Dynamax Incineroar, like, might be the better move if I'm not confident I'm going to KO with the Phantasm chip plus the -1 Phantasm. But, yeah, Giratina ends up pulling it off for us. And so, yeah, my opponent needed a crit there to give themselves a chance. I am curious how the damage rules work that way, because, like, Dynamax Incineroar is, like, I would say 100% win condition, whereas with Giratina, it's like, maybe it is 100%, but I don't know the damage calcs there nearly as well as I do with Dynamax Incineroar. So that could have been pretty scary. But, yeah, I think not tailwinding turn 1 was really critical for us in this matchup, because if I tailwind, then they have a major speed advantage, even with just Calyrex and Zacian against me under tailwind, and then they can just overwhelm me way too quickly. And so, yeah, I thought my play of Tailwind Water Spout was super obvious, and as a result wanted to go for something a little bit different, and by switching it up on that turn 1, it gave us a pretty significant advantage. But yeah, fortunately for us, like, Shedinja never went for Endure, and then we also hit the Thundurus on Kyogre after the first turn, and, you know, missing the first one, that was definitely the best one to miss out of all of them, because they set up the electric terrain in subsequent turns, so we did more damage with Thunder. So, yeah. Either way, banger first game here with Giratina, so let's keep things going. Next game here, and we've got Zamazenta, Lugia, Groudon, Grimmsnarl, Kyogre, Tornadus. One very interesting meta trend right now is Zamazenta plus Lugia. We just featured Lugia on the channel, but I've actually run into physical Lugia a lot recently with Zamazenta, with Thunder Wave and Recover, so it's like super similar to the set we just featured, but physical instead. And basically the idea is that you can keep giving Lugia boosts via coaching. It's really difficult to KO, and then you just continue to boost it up essentially. So I think Incineroar is actually fairly interesting for that reason. Giratina is really good here as well. Maybe I just go with, like, it always feels weird to not bring all of my restricteds. I think Whimsicott Kyogre is also maybe acceptable. We shouldn't expect Sacred Sword to KO the Zamazenta. Like, it'll survive if EV'd with like 10%. Is what I expect. At least, like, I ran into that scenario in a practice game. I mean, I kind of want to just go with Whimsicott, Kyogre, Zacian, Giratina, but I think Incineroar is actually really good here if they indeed are physical Lugia, but I guess that's a gamble that I'm not 100% confident on. Okay, I'm gonna go with Whimsicott, Giratina, Zacian, Kyogre. I think my worry about the Whimsicott Giratina lead is that it's a little bit Grimmsnarl weak, because this totally could be Grimmsnarl Lugia lead, Self-Sucker Punch, and a weakness policy. I'm glad that Lugia gets to shine here, though. Like, it's just not really been a relevant Pokemon in any restricted format outside of, like, 2010. It was decent in 2010, but since then it's really fallen off. That's Groudon, though, with Zamazenta? Okay. How do I feel about this? I think it's okay. Because, like, with Whimsicott, I can just charm the Groudon. So if they just end up maxing Groudon turn 1, it's super good for me. But I think my opponent might be smart here and actually just go for something like a Behemoth Bash immediately onto Whimsicott. So one of the interesting debates here is, do I want to just Tailwind Whimsicott instead? Allowing Kyogre to outspeed in subsequent turns. The main thing here is basically, like, I'm worried about coaching into the Groudon slot. But if I charm, your damage output is just so mediocre. So, yeah, I think here I'm down to go for Charm, Dynamax, and then just Phantasm onto the Groudon slot. I would love to see a Groudon Dynamax here, personally, because then it would mean you're Dynamaxing something that's eating up -2 attack immediately. Charm Light Screen on Whimsicott, by the way, was like a tech that started popping up before the World Championships this year in Series 12, which was a, you know, fairly interesting meta trend. And it made sense because the idea is, okay, like, you know, it's kind of like Grimmsnarl where you're able to decrease your opponent's attack and, you know, defense. Okay, so they actually just go for Protect. Nicely done. Now, what's interesting here is I get a defense drop, and then if you Behemoth Bash, oh, they just go for coaching through Protect. Okay. Yeah, I like that play a lot. What's interesting, though, is, yeah, like, now I actually am more incentivized to click Tailwind, I think. Because they see my Charm, they should probably be fairly concerned about, this was really well done, though. I should have considered the fact they could go for coaching through Protect. Yeah, basically, I do want a Tailwind here now to enable the Kyogre in the back. I'm actually going to keep Phantasming into the Groudon slot. The other nice thing about getting defense drops onto the Zamazenta is I can just bring out Zacian and then just Sacred Sword. So, like, I feel fine about this positioning, but I am really worried now about a late game Lugia, essentially. Phantasm does great damage there, though, so I'm fairly content. By the way, Kyogre looks amazing against this duo, but it's actually not that good thanks to the pressure of Snarl and Wide Guard from Zamazenta. One of the interesting debates is basically, like, do I want to KO the Zamazenta or do I want to leave it on the field? They actually go for Stone Edge and miss, unfortunately, but they targeted the Whimsicott as well. Okay, I guess we'll take it. I want to conserve Whimsicott. So here I'm down to switch out into Zacian. And I'm going to go for just the third Phantasm onto the Groudon slot. It is a little bit painful to have done all of this. And, oh, also with Sacred Sword, earlier I mentioned, like, with the defense drops, but it doesn't take into account negative defense drops either, right? So I'm not actually sure I'd get the KO. Yeah, I'm just worried about, Lugia now, basically, because I didn't have a very good Dynamax in this game, but if it is physical Lugia, I can at least use Whimsicott to decrease its damage output, and then I can look towards just KOing Zamazenta with, like, a Shadow Sneak plus a Sacred Sword. Okay, so I bring out Zacian. I think the other thing is I tunnel vision on them being Assault Vest Groudon, so I didn't think they'd be able to just, you know, like, protect. Here, like, it's fine with them protecting because... Actually, I suppose if I just KO Giratina, that's fairly good value for me, no? But I can pressure them with a double knockout, potentially, right now. And the interesting thing is you don't really have super good switch-ins. They actually just go for another coaching. Okay. That's fine. You're not going to survive this next turn. So this is the interesting thing about Zamazenta setups, is that, like, the Zamazenta itself doesn't really exert very much offensive pressure. Behemoth Bash is a decent attack, right? But it's not that good. It's actually been a long time since I've used Sacred Sword on, like, a minus defense. Yeah, stat changes don't affect the attack's damage, so I think it's better to just Behemoth Blade, or ooh, play rough. I don't even know if that KOs, to be honest, but I guess we'll see. And here... What's Groudon at? Neutral defense. Fairly confident Shadow Sneak will KO here at neutral, but we'll see. I guess Groudon surviving here would be very bad for me. Has 1 HP. Okay. Play Rough does get the KO on his Zamazenta, but the 1 HP survival here is rough. They go for Precipice Blades. Yeah, I guess like this is just the lack of knowing my Giratina calc super well. And I wasn't sure how fast they were going to be relative to us either, but that's obviously not great for me. It was Life Orb Groudon this entire time, so if they had actually hit Stonehenge, it may have been better for me, honestly, because I would have survived. But honestly, that's okay. I'm going to go back into... Ooh, I mean, I can't just go into Kyogre now, right? Seems okay. I mean, what's interesting is that my opponent hasn't Dynamaxed yet, but we have gotten rid of 2 Pokemon. But, I don't know, if Zacian just survives there and I get a double knockout, I feel like I should just win the game, no? Grimmsnarl plus Lugia, presumably. Oh, it's actually just Kyogre. Okay. Interesting. I am a little bit worried about my late game damage I'll put into Kyogre right now. I have Light Screen. Like, Tailwind is up right now, but I'm not opposed to switching Kyogre out into Whimsicott. And then going for Shadow Force here onto the Kyogre slot. I think I tunnel vision a little bit hard in this game and expected them to like I kind of focused on them basically playing towards Lugia. And they didn't even bring Lugia in the end here. So yeah, if Zacian didn't faint here, it would have been fairly valuable into pressuring either slot with Behemoth Blade, right? But I was worried about Groudon being like max speed, which on a Life Orb set could actually be the case, and yeah, I really thought Shadow Sneak would KO there, and in the end they survived with 1 HP, so I was close in my estimates. I'm sure it was a damage roll. Just don't know if it was more in my opponent's favor or less. Okay, they go for Light Screen. That's fine. Like, now basically we're playing the game where we try to stall out my opponent's Dynamax, and if they ended up Hailstorming Giratina here, it would be super good for us. But they go for Lightning onto the Whimsicott slot, which is also totally fine. Okay. This turn is interesting. I could go for Light Screen. I could go for another Tailwind. I could go for Moonblast. Nah, I'm probably not Moonblasting here. I think I like Light Screen the most right now because, like, we have a lot of bulk to work with here. It makes sense for Giratina to... I mean, Grimmsnarl to set up Reflect right now to take less damage. But... yeah. I'm really curious about the speed dynamics between the Kyogres and if the Kyogre on the opposing end has any speed investment. So, yep, they set up Reflect. That's fine. I'd expect Hailstorm into the Whimsicott slot. Yep. I mean, we sold out 2 turns of their Dynamax, and now they're eating up chip damage from Hail as well. Well, I guess it's only 1 turn of chip damage. I bring Kyogre back out. The interesting debate with Kyogre is then who I also want to target. I have to actually be a little bit careful about my endgame against the Grimmsnarl here. That's solid damage from Defensive Force, though, so I'll take it. Okay, we confirmed the speeds here as well. The Kyogre is faster than Giratina, so that's good to know. Okay, let's think about this. I've got Light Screen up. They've got both screens up themselves. I mean, here, truthfully, I would love to try to KO their Grimmsnarl. Just not sure I'll be able to. I could also try going for Thunder plus Poltergeist onto their Kyogre. The thing is, I'm just not confident in KOing Grimmsnarl with like a Scald plus a Poltergeist double up. And if... I don't think we ever KO Kyogre here, but we'll see. Oh, they have Sucker Punch. Okay, that's not good news for me. I maybe survive Hailstorm, but if not, this game's definitely over. Oh. Okay, that's interesting. They split their damage there. Hailstorm the Kyogre. Huh. Interesting. I'll take it. Poltergeist here. Does miss Kyogre. Okay. But we crit the Thunder. That certainly helps more than missing. That was a really weird turn. Obviously, like, I end up coming out, you know, in a really positive manner. This wasn't the cleanest of games. Like, I you know, assuming Shadow Sneak would KO the Groudon there and being afraid Groudon would outspeed me, I don't know if that was, like, a great assumption. And then also, yeah, I mean, this end game, like, that crit there was super unfortunate for them. But, yeah, I mean, like, they could have just Hailstormed the Giratina slot there, right? But instead, they committed onto Kyogre, so I'm surprised they didn't just, like, you know, fully focus on one slot over the other. We can just Shadow Sneak and Scald now. The idea behind Shadow Sneaking here, by the way, is so that if they go for Sucker Punch, it fails, and I get free chip damage on a Grimmsnarl. Yep, exactly like that. Because Grimmsnarl, like, that felt like max attack investment to me, given how much it did into Giratina, but I could be wrong, and I get a burn as well, so pretty much everything going right for us in this end game. Today's episode was just so scary, though, because I had to hit so many Thunders through Hail. But, yeah, if they... the main question is whether or not Hailstorm would have KO'd Giratina there after the Sucker Punch damage. I think it would have, personally, and I didn't really contemplate the idea of Sucker Punch, and I should have, because they have Lugia on their team. And they end up forfeiting. Yeah, after the burn, there's not much they can do. I really wish we could have seen how this game would have played out without the crit, though. Because Thunder still would have done an okay amount of damage, but part of the problem for me there is that their Kyogre was faster than mine, right? As well as the fact it was faster than Giratina. The thing is, I could protect the Giratina the next turn, maybe just Thunder the Kyogre. But yeah, without that crit, I think it is certainly a very different game because of the speed dynamics. So we definitely had some good fortune today. I guess, granted, though, if the Groudon just fainted from Shadow Sneak earlier, I would have had a Zacian in this end game as well. And then Zacian could just Behemoth Blade to KO the Grimmsnarl. And then it would essentially be a 3v1, and Kyogre can't win that situation. So, yeah, like, that turn maybe was a misplay because I could have just gone for something like Poltergeist instead. I just really thought Shadow Sneak would KO. And unfortunately, I was wrong in that assumption. So, yeah. Either way, though, we end up with the win, but definitely could have been a little bit cleaner here. But I'm still getting used to using Giratina in Series 13, personally. Okay, last one here, we've got Yveltal, which is never that fun to play up against with Giratina, because we only have Ghost type attacks, but Giratina Zacian is a really nice combo. So, Yveltal, Thundurus, Kyogre, Zacian, Whimsicott, Groudon. Part of me is intrigued by the Thundurus, the Zapdos in this game, because I can Eerie Impulse and Thunder Wave the Yveltal, and this is pretty good into Zacian and Kyogre as well. I honestly think Whimsicott Zacian is also strong for me with Giratina Kyogre here, so I don't know, the Zapdos is cool, but I just don't think it's, like, worth it in a best of one. But, like, for example, if we were playing a best of 3 set right now, I would consider bringing Zapdos if, like, I realize that, like, the speed control via Thunder Wave is really valuable, right? And so, for example, like, this team is a little bit bulkier. They have their own Whimsicott, so it's likely that if we both set up Tailwind, they will just outpace me. One thing that does, like, kind of mitigate that is the Whimsicott on our side having Charm and Light Screen, so, like, I'm not necessarily that sad if you outspeed me, if I can just decrease your damage output. But they go with Whimsicott Yveltal, which I'm very happy to see here. I would say turn 1 is interesting, though, because obviously they can just go for, like, Tailwind plus a max Airstream into Whimsicott. So my first question is on the Yveltal, you know, what kind of set are you? The second is whether or not I even bother setting up Tailwind with Whimsicott, because what I could do instead is just go for, like, Light Screen here. And just Behemoth Blade into Yveltal. Yeah, I'm down for that. We'll see if Yveltal even Dynamaxes. Maybe they protect or switch here. But then if they, like, protect, for example, that's a free Light Screen I get up. That's amazing. Basically, I think, like, the Giratina plus the... Okay, yeah, they go for protect. That's fine. It could even be Trick Room from Whimsicott expecting me to Tailwind. And they're not Tailwinding here. So, let's see if it's Trick Room. Yeah, I think it is. I guess it could be Moonblast, but... This is interesting, though, because if I'd actually gone for Moonblast and Behemoth Blade on a Whimsicott with that turn 1 play, I wouldn't say I win the game, but I would be in such a huge advantage. Because then I could just go for Tailwind the next turn and Behemoth Blade, and I completely win the Speed War. This is interesting now, right? Like, if I'm them, I actually expect them to maybe Oblivion Wing into the Yveltal, or sorry, into the Whimsicott slot. I wouldn't Dynamax Yveltal here if I were them. I would Dynamax Groudon or Kyogre. But I have Charm on this Whimsicott, so I almost want to conserve it. I'm actually going to switch into Giratina right now, I think. And play Rough onto the Yveltal slot. Like, with Light Screen up, I mean, Giratina might take a fair amount from Moonblast plus Oblivion Wing, but it won't faint. Ah, okay, they've got their own Charm on Whimsicott. That's fine. Yeah, they go for Oblivion Wing. That's okay. Them having Charm as well, though, means I have to be a little bit careful about how I play this. Their Life Orb on Yveltal, okay. I mean, to be honest, I expect Giratina to outspeed here, but the problem is they can just Sucker Punch, so I'm down to just Protect here and go for a Behemoth Blade onto Yveltal. Because essentially, like, now that they've set up Trick Room, I mean, Yveltal's in a really weird position where you don't really want to Dynamax it. Given that your Life Orb, I also expect the Giratina to outpace it here, but I don't expect Shadow Sneak to KO. I think I've learned my lesson after that last game. Okay, they just Dark Pulse, that's fine. Oh, is Whimsicott reversing Trick Room here? I actually really like that play on their end. Okay, we KO Yveltal, though. Should be reversing Trick... Oh, no, it's just Moonblasting. Okay. That works for me, especially since I thought the Giratina Protect was fairly telegraphed. I actually could have just gone for Poltergeist Behemoth Blade there and then Shadow Sneak KO Whimsicott, but Groudon finally comes out. That's what we were expecting this whole time. This is where things get really interesting, in my opinion. Because first question is, like, who do I want to Dynamax from this angle, right? There's only 2 turns of Trick Room left. I think I could pretty easily switch my Zacian out into Whimsicott. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm even thinking about Dynamaxing Giratina here, truthfully. It's an interesting consideration because then I drop Groudon's defense, but I think Max Kyogre also is fairly strong for me in this endgame. I think here actually protecting Giratina was better. I ended up just going for Poltergeist because I want to bring Whimsicott down to Sash, but the problem is, like, they could just Moonblast plus Max Rockfall. Oh, actually, if you go for Rockfall, though, it means you Faint from Sand, which would work for me. Essentially, I want Whimsicott down this turn, or Giratina to survive this turn. If either outcome happens, I think I'm decently happy about it. I also think, like, me switching out Zacian here is super obvious, right? So they should expect that and play accordingly. Okay, they go for their own Charm here. That's fine. Unless they Max Flared my Whimsicott slot. Nice. Okay, this is a really good outcome, I think. Yeah, because I survive. I get a Poltergeist off into Whimsicott, which is still decent damage, right? And I've got the Dynamax advantage relative to my opponent right now. Okay, you are just Focus Sash here. That's fine. Still expect this to do around half even after Charm. Nice. I've got Mental Orb here, so I also don't have to worry about Encore. I could Charm their Groudon, honestly. I am thinking about Tailwinding here, so I get the speed advantage, though, going into this endgame. Yeah, I'm down to Tailwind here. I know it seems a little bit odd. Maybe their Whimsicott just goes for another Charm, but they actually switch out. Okay, yeah, makes sense. And there's Zacian coming in. So basically, now I've positioned myself where I get Tailwind up, and if you just KO the Whimsicott or the Giratina, Kyogre comes in and just clicks Water Spout or Dynamaxes. I'm really impressed by Giratina today, honestly, even though, you know, it missed out the KO on Groudon, but everything else it's provided us has been amazing. Okay, they actually have Max Steel Spike, though, so that will give them a defense boost, which is cool. Curious if Whimsicott could have survived that after a Charm, but I'm not confident in it, and this is much better for me now because I end up getting a major speed advantage, and I just get Kyogre in for free, which is excellent. And I think, like, just with this little bit of chip damage now onto the Zacian slot, like, Kyogre is just really poised for success, right? Light Screen wears off, Trick Room expires. Time to bring out Kyogre. I could still look towards maxing the Giratina slot, but I obviously ate up Charm, which is not ideal. Let's just double check the board state real quick. So I've set up Tailwind now, so I outspeed both. The obvious play for them this turn is to, say, like, protect the Zacian. And Max Quake into Kyogre. They could get a little bit bold, though, and just end up attacking with both. I feel like I should have this one given the current state, but I'm not convinced yet. Okay, honestly, here I'm down to just go into Zacian and Water Spell, because I expect to survive a Max Quake from their Groudon, right? So if they don't protect Zacian and they stay in with it, game's just over if we KO. Because they could Quick Attack my Kyogre as well. I guess that's the third option. But, yeah, I don't want to Dynamax the Kyogre here this turn, truthfully. Because I think right now one of the major advantages is I can flex my Dynamax option between Kyogre and Giratina. Yep, there's Protect. Cool. Works for me. And the thing is, okay, yeah, now you get a special defense boost via Max Quake, but what are you going to do now, right? Yeah, that's definitely Assault Vest. It is so weird seeing Groudon take 40% from a Water Spout. Yeah, they Quake into Kyogre. Cool, and I survive. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Now is where the game gets interesting, I think. They get a special defense boost. I have to respect the option of them getting a double Protect off, which is a little bit scary. If I were them, actually, that's what I would go for here, truthfully. My fear is if I KO Groudon, I give them a free switch in. And I really don't like that. I think if we KO Zacian, we should always win here. So I'm down to actually just Behemoth Blade and Scald it here. Even if they get the double Protect, Precipice Blades goes off, you don't KO the Zacian, and I get a free switch into Giratina, and then I can Dynamax. I think my other alternative last turn, by the way, was just Dynamaxing Kyogre there, but I kind of wanted to max Giratina in this endgame. They actually don't go for a double Protect with Zacian, which means I should just win the game. Okay, so we get Behemoth Blade off here. Yeah, it does survive. I think today's episode was so interesting because it was about, like, finding unique plays with the Whimsicott, right? Like, Tailwinding on the last turn of, or second to last turn of Trick Room. Was it the last turn or second last turn? Either way, like, Tailwinding in that position. And then with the, nice, and we survive with Zacian. And then with the first game, like, not going for Tailwind immediately. So now I can bring out Giratina and Dynamax it. Okay. We also know it's Assault Vest Groudon, so I'm free to just double up onto it. I know you have Charm here, but you can't Charm both of my Pokemon on the same turn. So, yeah, we still have one last turn of Tailwind, which works out perfectly for us. I know you can't Protect on Groudon, so we're going to Dynamax here. This game was interesting because I did hold my Dynamax until really the very end, right? The main thing is, yeah, like, I wanted a Water Spout there because I was really worried that they would actually just not protect the Zacian and then just Max Quake plus Behemoth Blade and KO my Kyogre. I don't even know if that KOs, to be honest, but, you know, if they do that, then it feels like I'm actually throwing the game away. Whereas the Water Spout, like, covered for both options and gave me the flexibility in, you know, this late game Giratina Dynamax play. But what was really huge was getting Tailwind up, set up so that I would outspeed the Zacian with my Pokemon. Yep, and they just charmed the Giratina, which is fine. I think that... Is that the right play? I don't know. Like, Behemoth Blade here might just KO now. But the hope was, yeah, for it to not KO, and then... Ooh, okay, it doesn't KO. This actually becomes really interesting if you survive the Phantasm here, but I think I should still win. Yeah, gets the KO. Cool. Nice job, Giratina. Getting revenge after the last Groudon survived with 1 HP from Shadow Sneak. I still can't believe that. Tailwind Peter's out now. And now we can just Behemoth Blade and Phantasm Whimsicott. This was such a fun team. I think, like, you know, obviously, outside of Giratina, like Zacian, Whimsicott, Kyogre, and Incineroar, those aren't really anything new, but, you know, they do have some slightly, like, the Whimsicott actually completely changes the dynamic of this, right? Because having Charm and Light Screen means that, like, I can play in a completely different manner from how people typically expect Whimsicott to be used, with just, you know, Tailwind, Moonblast, Protect, and Encore, or, you know, filler move, Trick Room. I said Encore, but Trick Room's way more common than Encore. And Light Screen and Charm gave me a lot more flexibility in how I could play today, right? And it also meant that I wasn't baited into just clicking Tailwind every game, because Tailwind would have very much worked against us in both Game 1 and Game 3, since my opponent had Trick Room in both of those. So, really happy to feature what Giratina can do in this format. Was honestly really crucial to the victories, and yeah, like Game 2 could have been a lot more one-sided if I didn't go for Shadow Sneak there, but I was a little worried about Groudon outpacing me there. That last game actually brought us into the top 100 of the rank ladder, so it's pretty cool to get there with Giratina with 3 wins in a row. So yeah, I honestly really enjoyed using the team here so far, and so I'm looking forward to playing another episode with it. But yeah, thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.